Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale Series. I noticed something here. We finished the first episode, and they're focusing with the image on Peter Quill. But as I actually read the description here, it just kind of sets everything up. But then noticeably, as we're about to start episode 2, it is seemingly going to be very focused on Rocket. And if you look at the icons for the other episodes, it seems like each episode is going to be focused on one specific character as the main driver, which doesn't really speak well for an overall narrative playing out. And even if anything, it feels like this might be yet another case, and it almost certainly is a case, that Telltale hired 5 different writers, or maybe 3 different writers, to write 5 different episodes, and that each episode is going to drastically feel differently focused, differently written. We can only enter the game and see, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll get a recap of our decisions, not that there really were any major decisions. Noticeably, nobody ever took this previously on concept and put it in any other kinds of games.
You have something I desire. The Eternity Forge.
Maybe I should quit while I'm ahead. Go out on a high note.
A lot of these lines of dialogue are things that nothing you said
Imagine
would have
how
changed.
she's gonna react when she finds out we killed Thanos.
It definitely would have been wiser to make Thanos,
like you said,
feel a little
she's your
bit more
sister.
of a threat. Show him
Trust me.
killing
Family's
or
worth
fighting
fighting for.
other people very easily, the Nova Corps very easily,
Maybe
instead
you're
of just
right.
showing us a bunch of Nova Corps corpses.
Thanos eradicated my people.
Honestly, it would
destroyed
make
my
more
planet.
sense, though, to show
Now that you
him
have killed him,
with his
the Eternity
armies
Forge will be our
assaulting an
salvation.
entire space fleet
You
or
have his body?
planet.
I can't believe it. We'll dispatch some officers to your location. The galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay.
Well, I was a little
I
shocked
will
that they were
not
going to
rest
destroy his
until
body.
We have conquered every
I
star
suppose
system in
in
the
a
galaxy.
universe where an Eternity Forge can bring somebody back to life, it makes a lot of
Starting
sense.
with you.
And it's pretty obvious that by the end of this, Thanos will be brought back to life. More than likely. So yeah, your major decision there was to have Gamora instead of Drax by your side, for
Come
what
find
little
me, Peter.
that actually did.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't believe there was a single real decision there that felt impactful. So they say again, the game series adapts to the choices you make. No, it doesn't. The story is tailored to how you play. Absolutely not.
Whoa!
It-
No!
What is
No,
this
no, no,
dark
no.
sorcery? Groot! Back, foul demon!
Barely responds.
Ow!
Whoops, I had the controller down.
Jeez!
So there's an example of missing the...
I am
Whoa!
Groot!
Hey!
That's an
This is
example of
not
missing a
normal.
button.
Get behind me! I will protect you from this monstrosity.
Guys, it's me. It's Peter Lord. Starquill. I mean...
Peter! I thought you were...
Yeah, so, I guess I was dead, and now, apparently I'm not.
This is impossible.
Impossible is one thing. This? This is freaky.
How do we know you are really Peter Quill? Prove it to me.
What do you expect him to do?
If he is really Peter Quill,
Let's make
you
him a
will
goofball.
know.
Oh, come on. Who else could master these sick moves?
Stop doing that with your pelvis.
What, this?
That is most disturbing.
Okay, great. Everybody calm now? Huh? We cool?
No!
I am Groot.
He's right. The dead don't just come back. There's gotta be a
But
catch.
the thing in the Marvel
I
universe
mean,
is
this
they
is insane.
probably
You see
do
that,
quite
don't you?
often.
Okay, Rocket, just...
Everything comes at a cost. We just don't know what it is yet. Until then,
Some kind of
this thing
sacrifice,
is just a ticking
probably.
time bomb.
Hala said it required a sacrifice. A life in exchange for another.
Thanos. He was holding the Eternity Forge when he fell.
Yeah, real comforting. What was that?
Well,
It's
if
Hala.
that's
She's
the
caught
way
up to
this
us.
is gonna work,
Everyone
then
upstairs, we gotta move.
she's gonna
I
have
already
to
died
kill
once today. I really
one
don't wanna
person
try
for
it
every
again.
Kree she tries to bring back alive. It's an interesting moral conversation
Everyone, hold on.
or
Things are gonna get a
philosophy
little
conversation
bumpy.
to say if one life is supposed
yeah,
to be
that'll help.
the same as the next. We're back to the streamer music.
Peter,
Honestly, I'd
You
prefer
just
to just
died. Are you sure you're okay to fly?
not have the streamer music enabled, but yeah, it's the right
Easy,
to have it
That
enabled.
answer your question?
Not really.
They literally have like one, maybe two songs to replace the streamer
Groot says
music
he's
where,
gonna puke again.
where the first episode had 3 licensed beats of songs. We're starting off this episode with more QuickTime events. This probably crossed the line of too many QuickTime events in a row. Well, ideally this would maybe just be a cutscene where
This
you
Hala
get to
lady's
pick
relentless.
lines
Why'd
of
she want this
dialogue while
eternity
the
thing so
actions
bad?
happen.
Her ship was full of dead Kree. Thousands of them preserved in stasis pods.
Okay. Now I might puke.
Save it for when we land, buddy.
She could create an unlimited army of Kree soldiers.
If this relic falls into Hala's hands, that's bad news. For everybody.
Agreed. Although I would relish in killing her. And then bringing her back to life. And then killing her again. And then bringing her back to life. And then killing her again. And then bringing her back to life.
I
And then
get it, Drax.
Now that will be a fair fight. One I would not lose.
You know, I'm all for people having opinions, but sometimes Drax shouldn't be allowed to speak. Yes, Groot. Now is one of those times.
Then we can't risk her getting a hold of this relic.
Yeah,
Get the
mine
galaxy stay guarded for like 5 friggin'
dialogue
minutes? I mean,
here
come on!
No matter
really
how
does
far
feel
we
like
run,
you're just throwing
Hala
in
will not stop
a
hunting us.
conversation. You're interrupting the conversation. There's a problem certainly with having
Milano
5
can't take much
people
more of this, Pete.
in the room
Barely got her up and running
talking.
after your last so-called landing.
Anyways,
If we don't find some place to lay low and fix
makes
our
a lot
Yeah,
more
I'm on
sense
it.
for these kinds of games if there would be just 2 people in the room during
Look, I
every
just need her to hold
conversation.
together for a little longer, Rocket. I might know someone who can help us out.
There's clearly an example here of where you could improve this just by having to have smoother frame rates. You can see how it's
Are we?
juddering just to
I don't
scroll
like
downward
being out in the open with Hala on our trail.
and get rid
Let
of
me
the
do the
loading
talking.
sections. Although, inherently, there was a small point where it felt like these kinds of games may just end up on something like Netflix as
My
an
ship's busted,
interactive
man.
app.
And you're the only guy who can fix it.
And this is why you never loan stuff to people. Haven't seen you since you left me in the Ravages. I hear you're a real hero now. Been helping out them Nova Corp boys.
But yeah, they Netflix only really tried
You've lost the other half of your
like
mind.
Minecraft story
Never thought
mode
you'd
season
turn into
1.
a spineless, role-following space cop yourself. Associating with you is bad for business, Quill. Can't have people seeing the authorities on my doorstep.
Just open the door already, Yondu. We don't have time to wait around all night.
You better come on in then before someone sees you.
Make yourself right at home?
Yandu,
Oh,
not particularly the worst bad guy, but also
I thought it was just
certainly
you,
not
Quill.
a
Not all your little
law-abiding
playmates.
citizen. We'll want to see if he has his magical
Hey,
needle.
no plants on the roof.
I am Groot.
That means you would be.
These guys are my family, Yandu. Great, okay, quick introductions then. This is Gamora.
Say now.
Now,
Nice to meet
clearly
you.
this
that
doesn't
away,
really
or I'll
connect to
cut it
the
off.
movies, because most of these
That's
people
Groot.
should know
Drax, say hi.
each other.
These are terrible.
What do you think you're doing? That's my food. Mine.
A warrior must eat.
And last but not least, Rocket. Rocket!
I don't trust Ravagers, Quill. They'll
There's
shoot you
his
in the
needle.
back the first moment they get.
Well, I don't trust animals that can talk.
Want to hear me talk? Okay. I'm gonna blow your friggin' head off. How's that for talking?
Yandu,
It's funny you have like a
put
timer
that
here.
arrow back in your pants, man. Look, Rocket's just a little sensitive, because everyone's been trying to kill us lately.
Well, you can add me to the list.
That's just his face.
What the hell?
I've been buying black market trinkets off this little freak for years.
And I've been gladly accepting this idiot's money.
You got anything new for me?
Oh, we got some. But it ain't for sale.
Well, ain't she a beaut?
Why would you even
Fit it
show
right
that
in with
to
my
him?
collection. Could clear some space. One can never have too many trinkets and little
Unless you
doodads.
really think he has some information
You ever
around
heard
it.
of it?
Nothing comes to mind. Then again, let me see that thing.
So, two people touching it potentially causes a flashback,
Beautiful.
but this
Sometimes
is the
it takes stepping back from your problems
same
to see how small they actually are.
scene we saw in the first episode.
These last few months haven't been easy for either of us.
Yeah.
But I'm not always
Repetitive
gonna be here.
content really isn't going to work well.
I worry about you. You're growing up so fast.
Why am I here again? I already saw this.
Maybe you didn't see all of it. You're meant for more than this life, Peter. I know you are. You're gonna save the galaxy. You're gonna kill Thanos. And change everything.
Stop it! Stop messing with my head!
I wish I could. But there's no other way. I'm trying to help you. Every time I look up there, I find something new. Something I overlooked. Come sit by me, baby. The stars even better from over here. Peter, please? Just for a little bit.
So the
Yeah.
Eternity
Of course,
Forge
Mom.
seems to have
Just for
a
a minute, though, okay?
mind of his own.
That's good.
So, what am I supposed to be looking at?
The stars.
So
I
we
know
have
they don't look like much, but you keep staring,
a couple
and suddenly they come alive.
constellations.
You start filling in the spaces, the lines between points in the sky.
This is weird
you see it
certainly
all clearly for the first time.
as far
It's
as
all
just
connected.
what you would call gameplay interaction.
That's Orion. No doubt about it.
It
There's a
is
character
indeed.
named Orion in
First
the Marvel
constellation
universe.
You ever learned.
So maybe there's a hint in that. Nope, it just goes away. Yeah. So I'm gonna skip this one because this one looks like it might turn into the Infinity Forge. Let's go with Gemini.
That's Gemini, right? The twins?
Yep. You used to say they were dancing together.
Yeah. I thought it was you and Dad.
You have one active imagination, Peter.
Orion might represent, say, Drax, and the Gemini might represent Gamora and her sister. We now have more and more stars appearing. Seems like we're gonna end up forming the Big Dipper. Of course, these constellations only look like this on Earth, so I don't know what information you really are going to get from this. Really, this is just an excuse to stretch out the game. As far as the actual content that has happened here, we have had about 8 minutes of worthwhile content and 16 minutes of gameplay.
I think that one is Canis Major? It's shaped like a dog.
That's right. You wanted a pup so badly when you were younger. But you could never have one. Too much money. Closest thing you were ever going to get was that constellation. You used to wish that dog sweet dreams every single night.
There's a real problem with Peter Quill and Star-Lord in that his interesting backstory is not revealed until much later, as far as his father being an alien and him basically being a potential superhero with potentially superpowers, and or at the very least some level of reality manipulating luck. Otherwise, he is just your average Joe who happens to be in space, and I think that concept works only well in a comedy. It doesn't work well in a action game, and I think that's something that Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy movie happened to succeed very luckily on, in that they could do both a little bit of action and some comedy, and they probably only succeeded on it because Iron Man, Captain America, every other Marvel movie before it was almost exclusively action, but the high budget action elements of the early Phase 1 Marvel movies can't really be a counterpoint in a video game. Like, if Telltale had made a ton of action games and then the Marvel story was the comedy, that probably would have worked better. And notably, it really is a timing thing because none of the other Marvel movies got Telltale games. There's no Iron Man Telltale game, there's no Captain America Telltale game, there's no Thor Telltale game. The closest thing you have are Batman Telltale games, which I think they work fairly well, since Batman is more of a action-focused story.
That looks like the Eternity Forge.
Sure does. Look closer.
That writing. It wasn't there before. What does it say? Mom?
What you really would need to do is to have
Come find me, Peter.
Have the mother be way more established as a character before she dies, so you have her as
Guys.
the Aunt
I don't
May
think they can
character
hear us.
or Uncle Ben character.
Did you just see
to
what I saw?
Spider-Man.
It's been decades since I seen your mama's face. Now that was a special treat.
Peter?
Something was off about that memory. That wasn't how the night ended.
Can't help you. I wasn't there the first time.
What just happened?
I saw my mom. You heard her, right? She wants me to find her. Wait, look.
Wait.
I've seen glyphs like that before. It's ancient Kree.
It'd be
Stop
funny if
eating
the mother
already.
turned out
God, I can't hear myself think.
to be Kree, but that would be a weird twist.
Hardly ever used anymore.
You know, they never really did mention
seen it
where
in
the
ages.
fungus
Don't keep us in
was coming
suspense.
from
What does it say?
in that area
You can
in the
read that
first
filthy
episode.
language?
No, but I think my sister can. Thanos was after something. An object with these same markings.
Let me see that.
Nebula and I stole it for him. I don't know what it does, but my sister may have been able to learn something from it.
So this is how
If
the
we can
sister's going to
find
figure
Nebula,
out
maybe
that she
can
could bring
help us
back
translate this.
Thanos.
Yeah, right before she cuts off all our heads and takes the forge for herself. And who do you think's the first guy she's gonna use it on?
Counterpoint?
You worry too much. We have to figure this out before Hala does.
Are you hearing yourself? Every story you tell us about that robo chick ends with somebody getting eviscerated. And that is something I'd like to avoid for the foreseeable future.
Let's go with being
Stand behind
careful.
me then.
Rocket's right. If we
I'm
go
going to
after
side
Nebula,
with
we
Rocket
gotta
on
be
this
careful.
one. This seems obvious.
I am prepared for any danger.
I've got you covered. I tried to get in contact with Nebula not
It's
long
kind of
ago.
hard to
She won't be
trust
hard to track
Gamora
down.
when
Better let me
she
have a look at
really
your
didn't
ship,
do
then.
anything to
I
save
may
you
have something
in
to
the fight
fix
in the
that
first
lying
episode
around.
against
Move
Hala.
your foot. I am Groot. Somebody get this tree away from me.
Enough with the snacks! Could you be any more useless right now?
There you have an awkward pause as it transitions the camera angle into
What's up,
a
man?
different cutscene.
Is everything okay?
Look, I'm no good at this, so I'm just gonna do it fast. I know we don't know a ton about the relic, but the one thing we do know is that it brought you back to life. Don't tell me you ain't thought about how you can use that power.
Let's see. Let's say nothing.
Well, maybe you haven't, but I have. You don't know a lot about me, but before I met you guys, there was someone. She's gone now, but maybe with that relic I can make her ungone. I have to try. We gotta go to Half-World, Pete. I know going after Nebula's the logical
Side
move.
quest
I get it.
here.
You
And
gotta
it
find
seems
out why
like
this thing's affecting you. But this favor,
no matter what you choose,
I
you're
gotta
probably
ask.
going to end up at
I ain't told
Half-World.
anybody about this before.
But unless her body is preserved, you're probably just going to bring back a grotesque zombie-like character.
If this person means that much to you, we'll go.
As far as I
Really?
understand it, Rocket
Thanks.
is
mean
being
it.
a genetic
Help me out with this,
modification.
boy.
He's basically one of a kind in the
Friend over here
universe.
keeps dropping it on my foot.
It slipped.
Let's get going.
That'll do it. Have that little furball of yours give her a good rev to warm up the engines. Should be right to go.
Jump
Where are we
to the
going,
next
Star-Lord?
scene.
We got a little detour to make. Right, Quill?
Rocket has some business to take care of on Half-World.
We don't have time for a detour. We've got more urgent problems to deal with right now.
Going to Half-World makes
Peter,
sense. It's a
there's
great way
something
to
we need to see.
do something random and hide.
Hey, you promised. We're going.
I found Nebula. She's taken Thanos' ship. She's heading to a remote Nova Corps outpost. Peter, she's going after Thanos' body.
Let her have
And
it.
we're supposed to care because...
If I know my sister, she'll kill anyone who gets in her way. And once she has Thanos, if she goes off the grid again, I can't guarantee I'll be able to find her.
I'm
I
going to
made a
side with
promise
Rocket this
to
time.
Rocket. They're just gonna have to wait.
Forget your promise. We need her to help us translate the Eternity Forge. Nebula isn't going
Literally,
to just
Nebula
wait for
said
us to
stay away
intercept her.
from her. So,
Look, a promise is a promise. Pete and I are going to Half-World.
Intercepting Nebula is more important.
You don't get to say what's more important.
When it's a matter of civilian lives, yes, I do.
We're going to Half-World.
Thanks, buddy. I owe you.
I still feel like even if you had said no, you're gonna end up at Half-World.
Peter, but Nebula...
Yeah, they clearly made you choose, and so...
Good luck translating the Forge without my sister.
Piss off one person by making the other happy, and you have to make decisions. That's probably an actual big decision. Check in with the Guardians. Leave now for Half-World. So, probably not much of a decision there, other than do you want to skip
Coast looks
unimportant things? Boy, is that just a painted background. That looks terrible. Let's see.
Who has been eating all this candy? Oh, yes! Rocket must have got to work it again.
So I can play one tape, and it seems like maybe throughout the course of the game I might unlock other songs or other tapes. You would think in a real game, which is a mean way to say it, that you might find collectible tapes throughout the world if you were making a point-and-click adventure. So I would assume that playing that music plays one or two different songs.
Groot?
That was an awkward transition where it just jumped to you being in here.
I am a collector of fine art.
Now, for Telltale games, I suspect there aren't actually any actual achievements for looking
present
at
I ever
everything.
got from Yondu. Found it on a stolen freighter covered in garbage. Said it reminded him of me. Rocket wouldn't let me put these in the common area.
Interesting. Why have an interactive point when you can just walk through it? Might as well have this conversation, I guess. At the very least, we can see what her room looks like.
What's all this?
None of your business. Don't make me regret letting you in here. It wasn't easy to find those. Guy who sold them to me tried to charge me a fortune. I convinced him otherwise.
Interesting.
You
Knife
got
collection.
a lot of sharp knives in here. How do you sleep with this stuff everywhere?
Peacefully.
I think Peter probably does have some justification to be less trusting or even mad at Gamora for her fairly uselessness as the most dangerous woman in the world title and as an assassin.
It's funny how alien all my Earth junk starts to look after a while.
Can't do anything with the Eternity Forge. It does seem to me like you're never going to really have a conversation with Groot or Drax. It just seems unlikely.
Seriously, this stuff's everywhere.
Drax is not mentally competent enough to really have a conversation, and Groot just says, "I am Groot," and I think that's all
good.
Peter Quill
Engine's all
understands.
running smooth. Some funky red light is blinking. Meh, that's probably fine.
I'd say the Groot gimmick arguably should... How did I get to an engine room? Walk this way, and I guess that splits off. it's a gimmick that probably should have been addressed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by... Wow, there's a whole transition here. Just adding a translator. So you'd have yet another character that would actually be understood by the audience instead of doing the comic book gimmick, which that really just highlights the idea that comics are for kids and the writing doesn't matter. There's inherently a lack of content in comics when you're getting 16 to 20 pages a month trying to tell you a part of a story or a whole story.
Hey, how's my favorite tree?
I am Groot.
Groot.
You think Rocket's gonna be okay? I'm worried about him.
Groot looks very tall.
Well, this has been a lively and fascinating conversation.
I am Groot.
You'd think Groot would be able to potentially write things down if he's not being understood.
You open your home to
Or
a
even
bunch of misfits,
grow
and what do you get?
Little
Slobs.
leaves
Peter,
to do
that's
some
what
kind
you
of
get.
signaling. One question certainly to ask here is, where's Yondu and all of this? Way too many load sequences for these kinds of transitions. The real conversation obviously is to talk to Rocket.
Come on. Don't die on me.
Need some help with that?
No, it's fine. Just shorts out every now and then. Crap. I think I got something in the engine room to fix this. You want to talk? I'll be down there.
Wow. So you're just gonna force me to go back to another transition. I think that this little green air freshener might be something, but apparently not. I suppose there's a bathroom somewhere on this ship, but we'll never see it.
Wait. Shouldn't these parts be in the ship or something?
So do we need to
Groot.
talk to Groot
I
again?
am Groot.
One of these days, you and I are gonna be able to have a conversation.
I am Groot.
There's not a Learn to Speak Groot class I can take, is there?
I am Groot.
Well, I'm gonna, go. Now.
I am Groot.
It's possible I've missed some lines of dialogue that I could have had. But the important conversation here is with Rocket, and obviously none of this is really important because the game was totally willing to just let you leave. Is my decision to talk to people and actually try to enjoy the content in the game going to punish me at some point for not acting fast enough? There definitely were points in the Walking Dead game where moving too slow was punished, or playing the game was punished. I don't think after the first couple times that happened, though, that they ever repeated it, because imagine fan pushback on that was pretty high.
Rocket.
Hi, Quill.
Your
I'll leave
average
you alone.
visual novel.
Later, Quill.
So I had already had the entire conversation with him, apparently. I'd say the entire visual novel audience, though, is much more accustomed to the idea of taking your time and enjoying as much of the dialogue you possibly can enjoy instead of being rushed. if you think of a visual novel as something closer to an interactive book than, say, a comic book, most book readers would prefer to take their time and move at their own pace reading books.
Hey, Gamora. Are you okay?
This might have been our only chance to catch Nebula, and she could be gone by the time we find her, and then I don't know what happens then. I'm sorry, I really don't want to talk about it.
So she just kicks you out of her room. Even compared to other Telltale games, this game feels like it is missing content. That they're just saying, yeah, we didn't finish this thought. We didn't write dialogue for this. There's Yondu.
Don't touch that.
I gave you this ship. Or at least I think I did. Can barely recognize it now. Look at all this crap you added to her.
Yeah, it's just like only one thing, one line of dialogue, and I wouldn't be surprised if half of these lines of dialogue are just going to be repeated at a later section if you hadn't heard them here, and that they've just programmed each character to have like one or two things they say in this overworld. This is a very far cry away from something like Mass Effect and being on the Citadel. You definitely aren't going to open side quests or expand on relationships to any high level.
Hey, Drax. You doing all right?
When Thanos was alive, I was a warrior with a singular purpose. But now, I am useless. The others have made that very obvious to me. Maybe I should have seen it sooner. I was ordered to stay here, while you and Gamora fought Hala. Even then, you no longer needed me.
Oh, don't say that. I still want you around, Drax.
Thank you, Quill. I hope I do not squander your companionship. Clearly my skills, they are no longer as helpful as I had hoped.
You should try talking to the others. You know, maybe they can teach you something new, help you find a new purpose.
Who would you suggest? I don't know. I do not think any of them would want to.
Let's see.
Take some lessons from Groot. He's always so calm. You know, you could use a little of that. And he always knows where he's most needed.
I don't know how you can tell all that from a tree. But you are right.
I should get going.
It's a little controversial, but I would argue for this game,
troubled by the visions
it would make a lot of sense to sideline Drax
to comfort
and
you about such matters.
Groot.
Unless you do not wish to speak of it.
Honestly, I'm freaking out.
Like, neither characters are going to be good talkers,
real.
And when you have a game that
Visions
is
cannot
around
be real,
conversation,
Peter Quill. That is why they are visions. If I could see
they're gonna
visions,
get
I would be
sidelined
concerned as well,
regardless.
but not agitated as you are.
So had you had those two die
Agitation
in the fight with
is for
Thanos
the
at the
weak.
beginning,
Good to know.
then you boiled the group
Thanks
down
for the pep talk,
to
Drax.
just
Really
Star-Lord,
You are
Gamora,
welcome,
and
friend.
Rocket, which would be much more manageable. And then I also would probably work to not introduce even new characters like Yondu. Still, none of these characters are really even that important, other than they are Marvel characters, so you know they aren't going to get killed. Like, Yondu isn't really going to be killed off. Let's see. it may be a case that even though these are marked as new with the exclamation points, the game is just doing a very bad job of remembering that I've already looked at all of these for episode 2. It is weird that the way this is formatted is not quite right for 1080p. You have to scroll down a little bit even to see your default ones, because it gets a little blurred at the bottom there. Had this gone completely full screen instead of having the top and bottom be outside of the monitor, that would have fit better. Doesn't really feel like there's too much new here. There is a possibility, certainly, that this story this may be new, could have started off with Drax and Groot being killed, and then an adventure happens and Star-Lord learns a lesson, then he gets sent back in time and he decides to not take on Thanos and instead maybe just destroys the Eternity Forge, and then they all flee with their lives and Thanos is then alive at that point, which may very well be what happens. We've got a email from Yondu where he's trying to hit on, I assume that's supposed to be Gamora. We've got another joke from Howard the Duck. Email that Howard the Duck's never going to really show up. Here we have a love letter from Rooks. But I think Rooks may have been killed in the first episode. That may have been the fanboy. Yeah, but a long email that's not really worth reading would be my guess. We have another spam thing from the Universal Church of Truth, which would be funny if they did actually show up in the game. I wouldn't be super surprised if they showed up for a brief second. And then a lot of these emails do seem to be the same one. Yeah, a lot of these are emails we had already read, and some of them definitely are marked as read, so I don't know why the others aren't marked as read unless there was a reply or follow-up on them, but let's see. Could we at this point call the Nova Corps? Warn the Nova Corps.
Nova Corps?
Sure, why not?
This is the Guardians of the Galaxy. You need to secure Thanos' body and prepare your crew for an attack. His daughter Nebula is heading your way.
Is that you, Star-Lord? Oh, okay, of course. Right away. Thank you so much for the warning, sir. I just, it means a lot.
Okay. I'm hanging up now.
So that's Rooks. So then, could we call the Collector and perhaps send the Collector to that location so he could collect Nebula? I imagine he would love to have her in his collection.
Collector's Museum? The Collector is out at... Star-Lord?
Huh.
But we won't
So
have
you
those
heard
kinds
me.
of choices unless they've
Yes.
written those kinds of choices.
Unfortunately, the collection is open only for exclusive Astartine Society members. Please clear the line.
So they didn't think of that idea. So we can't do that. But potentially throwing more people fighting against Nebula would be helpful, certainly. And even if we ended up with the Collector stealing Thanos' body, that may be better than Nebula getting Thanos' body, although it does seem like, as far as I recall, the Collector actually works for Thanos too. Everybody would do anything Thanos demanded of them. He's so threatening and such an imposing figure. Alright, travel the half-world with Rocket.
Heads up, everyone. We're going to Half-World.
Stay out of trouble. I may not be so accommodating next time.
And that
And
scene.
take care of the Milano. She's a ship, not a trash can.
Take care of yourself, Yondu.
That's it for Yondu, barely showing up for a few minutes.
Hala has found us.
And this is what we call great timing.
I assume Hala would have found us no matter what. Half-world is apparently has an abandoned lab, or the entire world is an abandoned lab. Now there's a decent argument to end the episode right here, because I imagine this second episode is barely going to be an hour and a half long.
What is this place?
Home. I haven't been back here since...
Let's go with this.
Thanks for trusting me,
response.
Rocket. I'm glad you brought me here.
So now
This isn't what we're here for.
they've basically sidelined all the other characters, so it is just a one-on-one interaction. I think there probably is a logical fallacy happening as the way Telltale games are written, in that they feel they need to have they need to have a lot of people.
Let me help you.
Don't touch her!
Even though you really should just have more interaction with smaller groups of people.
Rocket? Hey!
Subject seems to be responding well to the program.
So it seems like
Vital
whoever's
signs
holding
are
it
good. Still no rejection
is the
of
one
the
that makes the
artificial
memories
vertebrae
start,
or neural implants.
and it does seem to work with most.
The only one who wasn't a total failure. Everything rests on you, my little friend.
Rocket. You okay? I heard you screaming in there. These walls aren't exactly soundproof. Not that he cares.
So they look
Yeah,
like they're
I'll be
human
fine.
Earth
No worse than
animals.
usual.
Hurts a little less each time. So, did you get it?
You mean this? Wait, it's the right one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
So
Once that computer's finished, we can finally break out of here.
I don't know why
Advanced security.
you would use
Supposedly unhackable
Earth
blast
animals
doors. Piece of cake, right?
You sound worried.
unless there just isn't a prevalence of other kinds of animals around
Hey,
the
you
galaxy.
can do this. Just stick to the plan.
Of course, obviously they're
It's gonna work.
I won't let you down, Lila.
I know. Catch! Nice. You're making
Throwing
this
some
look
quick
way
time
too
events.
easy. Power source.
What would have happened
Designed
had
by
I
yours
dropped it?
truly. Okay. Moment of truth. Go ahead and hook it up to the underside.
Ah! Stupid piece of junk.
You know your ear twitches when you're frustrated, right? It's cute.
Oh yeah? You're cute.
It's weird now to control Rocket and have to
I
think
meant that as an insult.
as far as just
I'm so
what he would
offended.
say or what you want to say
Why do you
using
keep
him.
doing that with your face?
It's called smiling. You should try it sometime.
Happy?
It's hard enough to get into like the mentality of playing a Star-Lord and then switch to play as Rocket.
Now, all I need's a display and we're in business.
So you actually have to tap A here. I was holding down A just to see if maybe that would work.
Yes. Now we just sync it to the facilities network.
This is a
I keep
longer
having that
sequence
dream.
Still?
than I would have
I'm
expected
outside
it.
again, in the fresh air somewhere. It's warm, bright. Can't hear a thing except the river rushing by. It felt so real. I can barely remember. It's been so long. But in this dream, I don't know. I'm almost there.
That's a nice dream, Lila. I promise you'll see it again. Just you wait.
Spent our whole lives waiting. We have to get these cages open.
There should be a hallway just outside that door. From there, we make a break for the main entrance.
When I get out, I'm gonna find that place. And I want you to come with me. We'll find the river. I know it's gotta be out there. Will you come with me?
So we already know she's dead.
going
We
wherever
knew she
you're
was
going,
dead
lady.
from the beginning, so
We'll find home somewhere.
just be nice to her. Like, obviously that's the response. It's the default response for all of
Hide it,
this.
quick!
I guess at a certain level, there might be a case where
Subject 89
in a
P14.
universe like the Marvel
Still
universe where a lot of people have magical
Begin
powers and
prepping
superhero
lethal
powers,
injection.
that you would, the people without superheroes might become crazier and you'd have just more
Rocket, I can't lose you.
You got claws, don't you? Well, that idiot thinks we're nothing but a bunch of animals.
yeah, that might explain
Let's show him how
the
right he can be.
craziness that you might see from this, as far as just making crazy
Rocket,
animals.
Lila! Lila!
We already know he fails, though, also, so. Let's see. A, X, A. QuickTime events, new kind of QuickTime events, almost intentionally, so that you probably wouldn't succeed too well with it. First try. He's already got these flying robots, so why? What is the benefit of trying to increase the intelligence of animals? And I would say, if you're going to try and increase the intelligence of anything, an animal is probably not a good starting point there.
We gotta move.
cybernetically enhancing humans that would be closer in species to the aliens, or enhancing aliens that are your same species would make more sense.
What are you doing? Come on!
If you're a mad scientist.
Lethal injection.
No.
Thought maybe I'd make it. Slower than I thought.
Are you sure they got you? Maybe it's just a scratch or
I
something.
was there, Rocket. I know what it is.
There you are. Kill them.
I'll create a distraction. Buy you time to get out. I can still cause a little chaos before it kicks in for good. I might as well try to take a few of them down with me, right?
Yeah,
You go, Rocket.
Very little to say here. It's
They'll be
just
sorry
all
for
a
what they did to
cutscene.
us.
Lila, I gotta know. Is this what you want? Do you want me to leave you?
I wanted a million other things. I wanted a life with you. But more than anything, I want you to survive.
Now, it's an interesting philosophical question
And
here.
if you leave me here,
Is one
you will.
living creature's life equatable as far as the Eternity Forge to another? Or would Rocket have to go kill a much larger character or just a smaller character to bring Lila back?
Go!
Something equivalent
You
in
need-
size.
To get out! Now!
I wouldn't be surprised if to revive
I'm not
Thanos,
asking you again. If you're
if we
gonna
carry her
run,
out of the lab.
run! And you can't do that carrying me.
Goodbye, Lila. Mess him up for the both of us.
Promise
See,
I will.
that's the choice I imagine
You'll see.
that Rocket would have chosen. That inherently he doesn't have the emotional maturity or thought process to not save himself first, which would be very animalistic. But we still know her body is gonna end up outside, since this is just a memory, regardless of what your choices you're making. It would make more sense if you actually were going back in time and actually changing the events instead of just seeing a memory. Let's see. Let's go with thank you, Lila.
Thank you, Lila. Thank you.
Be interesting, I guess, to also question if
Lila.
Rocket will never forget that. If plant life is equatable.
What just...
You had no right to see that. Those are my memories, not yours.
Look, hey, listen. I'm sorry.
Little late for that.
Well, I still mean it.
Is Rocket going to try and kill himself to bring Lila back?
It didn't even work. How could it not work? Come on.
You did what you could, Rocket. Now it's time to go.
Useless piece of junk.
I still don't
Just
understand
take it.
why
Sorry
it
I dragged you
activated
out here.
when Thanos picked it up. Originally. If that would have been the beginning of the cycle of Thanos, let's give him a moment, I guess. If it got charged when Thanos died, but clearly they're not paying enough attention here. Like, it's pretty obvious that you have to have somebody close by
Thanks.
die
For, you know...
For it to suck
Going
the
with
life
me.
out of him.
I know you had other things to do.
Anytime, Rocket. What are friends for?
So it was just like a whole pointless side quest. Nothing got accomplished from that.
No. Come on. Please don't do this. I gotta go.
Good. You're back. Looks like Nebula started tearing up the Nova Corps outpost. Hopefully we can still catch her.
Yep. At the end of the day, none of it mattered. It was just a side quest. And is there anything else we can actually interact with? I just don't think we're going to get into any deep philosophical conversations here about is it right for the Guardians of the Galaxy to potentially use the Eternity Forge to even bring Peter Quill back. They'll use it if they can without giving it a second thought. If you handed this to the Nova Corps, I imagine they might create some entire justice system, murderers being killed to bring back their victims. Of course, that is a potentially slippery slope where then all of a sudden thieves and even petty criminals are being killed to bring back what Nova Corp would consider more important people, to the point where politicians are just being brought back to life. And then there's certainly no deep consideration, I imagine, that's going to happen here, where you wonder, does the Eternity Forge bring back somebody to live for a certain amount of time? Do you get the same number of years that the person who died was fated to live otherwise? It definitely feels like the Eternity Forge may have killed Thanos more than even the gun did. Although it clearly looked like the gun killed him. So now we have our two sideline characters standing here looking at each other.
I am Groot. I am Drax. I am Groot. I am Drax.
So that's all you get as far as the conversation between Drax.
I am Groot.
Nice to see you two are getting along.
I am Groot. I am Drax.
I didn't know Groot could laugh.
Well, I'm gonna, go. Now.
I am Groot.
It is, I guess, somewhat believable. You could have a language where it was just based on the inflection and how you said the same words over and over again. I don't think that is perhaps audio-wise diverse enough that you don't have enough different phonemes. What are they called? Different sounds that would be parts of letters, parts of words.
What happened after you escaped that lab?
I waited till it was safe to go back in. I got Lila and well, you saw what I did. After that, I just got lost in the galaxy. I mean, compared to a cage, it was amazing how big it felt. And how empty.
Thanks for the talk.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting that that just ends the conversation when ideally in a visual novel you would want to be brought back to the menu so you could talk some more.
It's okay to miss her, you know. Come on, Rocket. It'll help you to talk about it. You've been keeping this to yourself for years.
Worked out fine so far.
Thanks for the talk.
Uh-huh.
I think both the Marvel and the DC universe would work fairly well if there was like a prominent character that was a therapist. Although inherently, superheroes kind of need to be emotionally and mentally stunted. A well-rounded superhero would not work. Batman's the prime example of that. Like, an emotionally stable Bruce Wayne would be spending his millions of dollars investing in infrastructure improvement, feeding the hungry, homing the homeless, improving the situation that creates such a split between the rich and the poor in Gotham City, to the point where if everybody was getting proper support, then they would never become criminals as far as the low-level goons that work for the Joker. You still would have crazy people like the Joker running around, but even at that, it doesn't really feel like Arkham is doing. I guess I'm going to have to decide to just not click through all of these because they just seem to reset. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like Arkham is doing its best job of either keeping the Joker in prison or mentally treating him. So we do have a new entry here. But instead you have Bruce Wayne spending his money making gadgets and childishly building Batmobiles and taking out emotional anger by beating up on thugs and being Batman, which is definitely not a healthy way to deal with your mental hang-ups of your parents being killed. And I personally think a comic that would point out the fact that Bruce Wayne probably was destined to be Batman even if his parents weren't killed is fairly likely. Like, I think in current canon with Batman, Bruce Wayne fell into the Bat Caves and discovered the Bat Caves and saw the bats and became obsessed with bats before his parents died. But in general, lots of people lose their parents. Very few of them become Batman, even in the DC universe. Spider-Man in the Marvel universe, kind of same idea. Like, neither one of these are available. Like, your Uncle Ben being killed and it being probably your fault in part, although not really directly your fault that your Uncle Ben being killed, may be a great motivator to do good, but with great power comes great responsibility shouldn't become your mantra, and it shouldn't have led to 50-60 years of Spider-Man comics of him fighting enemies over and over and over again. At some point, Spider-Man did quit being Spider-Man, but really he should have quit much earlier than that point and never come back. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, an example, is not a rich person like Bruce Wayne, so he would have been much better off using his intelligence and science skills 100% of the time, developing helpful technologies for society instead of being a superhero or even being a better journalist. Even in his role as a journalist, he's selling pictures of himself as Spider-Man saving things instead of being an investigative journalist who might expose some evil doings of other people like the Kingpin, for example. Well, I guess I could go on pointing out the childish nature and logical flaws of superheroes. But if anything, I think that really just points out I'm not super interested in this story. It really just feels super throwaway. Yeah, nice to see a little backstory on Rocket, but what does that set you up for in this game? Is Rocket going to die? Probably not. Is Lila going to come back? Probably not. Is Rocket even going to play a big role in the rest of the game? Possibly not. He'll be around, certainly, but he may just be the gun guy. And I guess I'll leave it at that. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.